Dr. Lile, always good to see you.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are kind of like this ball of energy. Every time I see you, you're excited, you're upbeat, and it's contagious. And so I always love hanging out with you. And last time you were on, it was virtual. You were in Florida, I believe, at the time we conducted the interview.
Correct.
So it's awesome to have you in studio here in Arizona. And even though it's just the beginning of March, it's already 90 degrees outside, which does not bode well for us. But, it's Arizona. So what are you going to do?
It's a dry heat. Even when it's 118, you guys call it a dry heat.
That's right. Because that's what we have to tell ourselves,
Right.
right? It's a dry heat. So the whole premise around ripple effect is what I call conversations with change makers. And it's just individuals doing great things to help others. And the work that you're doing through Pro-Life Doc, your entire story, which I want to get into, kind of this process that you've been on from being a physician to where you're at today, to me exemplifies that. And so I want to talk with you about where you've been, where you're going, what you're seeing, and as much as you want to share, let's do it. So diving right in, for those that maybe didn't catch the first interview that I had with you, what's your story, what's your background, and kind of lead us into today?
Sure. Well, I'm board certified in obstetrics and gynecology. I've delivered over 5,000 babies in my 30-year career. In fact, the practice that I took over in 1999 was the largest abortion clinic in the Pensacola region. So we negotiated, we took over the practice. We had the former physician sign a restrictive covenant, a non-compete, where he couldn't practice any medicine at all for the next 2 years in our Tri-County area. Day one, we stopped all abortions. And from the border with Mobile, Alabama, for 220 miles to the east at Tallahassee, Florida, we still do not have a single abortion clinic along the Florida Panhandle. So we had that as our first premise of what we wanted to do, but it wasn't until a Sunday afternoon when I actually had a key to the office, and I had been to the office, seen the first floor, seen the exam tables and the exam rooms, my private office, ultrasound, but I had never been upstairs, and upstairs is where the surgical suite was. And the office is actually on Bayou Boulevard in Pensacola, same road as Pensacola Christian College, and you have a 1,000-member church here, a 3,000-member church. You never saw protesters. And so as I was walking up the stairs, I was thinking, how many thousands of moms have walked up this very same set of stairs to the second floor with a baby on the inside, and then spent a half hour up there, walked down the other set of stairs without that baby on the inside. And I got to the top of the stairs, I turned, and there was not only the exam table, the stirrups, and all the instruments, and the abortion machine. I said, people don't know in Pensacola what's been going on for decades. So I asked my pastor, we did a presentation. It was very well received. People learned things they never knew before. At that time, you could abort a baby up to 24 weeks gestation in Florida. Meanwhile, 2 blocks away at our hospital, we had babies in our NICU surviving at 23 weeks gestation. And 10 miles away at Pensacola Beach, if you just disturb preborn sea turtle nests over on Pensacola Beach, you faced a $250,000 fine and up to a year in jail. It's like, how are we having babies' lives saved over at the hospital? But if you can abort a baby at 24 weeks, there's no penalty and there's no cry out. But if you just disturb preborn sea turtles, then you can face a year in jail. So that was really the launch of the Ministry of Abortion. Is not healthcare as our current thrust, but really the launch of prolifedoc.org.
So with Pro-Life Doc, walk us through what it is, what's the mission, what's the vision, and where you're at today with it, because I know it's exploded.
It really has exploded. The original mission was to bring education, to bring people into labor and delivery, to bring people into the operating room. True science will always defend God's preborn, because God is not going to have any tool that He's created and provided that would allow for the destruction of His preborn, which is created in the image of God at that moment of conception. It's just that quote unquote science has just lost its ever loving minds.
Mm.
How we now have a pill which will kill a baby in the womb 98% of the time up to 12 weeks gestation. How we can even have scientists saying that there's an infinite number of genders. No, science tells us that at that moment of conception, you are either XX or XY with some very limited, differences in that. But there is not an infinite number of genders that are there. So when we use true science, and we apply that, it will always defend God's preborn. So we are trying to use true science, not only true science of what an abortion is, but the true science of what happens at the moment of conception. So the amazing process that happens when you go from a haploid cell from the mom and a haploid cell from the dad coming together, and that one cell is genetically unique from mom, dad, the other 8 billion people on the planet. Halftime that baby is a different gender from the mother, and that also babies can have different blood types. But the process of how we go from one cell and then 4 weeks later we have 250,000 cells functioning together as one with a heart that's actually beating and circulating fetal blood 22 days after conception. But it even going to the next step where we are now with technology diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb. All states have laws that protect the rights of all patients. There's federal law to protect the rights of all patients. And we are diagnosing, treating, and curing my patients in the womb.
Mm.
And we can go through that, but everything from blood transfusions at 17 weeks gestation, because moms have antibodies which can cross the placenta, and because the baby has its different blood type, the moms will attack the baby's blood count and it'll drop. So we can deliver the baby, but what do you do if the baby's only 17 weeks long? No baby has survived being delivered at 17 weeks. So we can do life-saving blood transfusions. We're doing open heart surgery for babies in the womb, where the baby actually has its own IV and its own anesthesiologist. I've done thousands of hysterectomies during my career. Does mom get an anesthesiologist? Absolutely, 100% of the time. Does the uterus get its own anesthesiologist? No, that doesn't even make any sense. If the mom is comfortable, the uterus will not have any involvement. But now, as we are advancing in treating and curing babies in the womb, the baby actually gets its own separate anesthesiologist, gets its own IV, it's getting its own pain medication, its own paralytic, its own team, because the baby is a different patient and is a different person. But we're now doing vascular brain surgery, we're doing spina bifida corrective surgery, which is in the 3rd generation, laser vascular surgery for twins. Every month there is a new article published on how we are now treating and saving the lives of babies in the womb. Clearly, they are patients. A patient's a person, no matter how small. We're just trying to bring these tools to not only pregnancy resource centers, but bring it to our youth, because we don't want the abortion discussion or even debate to devolve whoever is the most intimidating and most vocal and is the loudest and even most threatening. We don't want them to win that debate. We want to use true apologetics and really use science for people who don't look at Scripture as an authoritative source. Most of our opposition to life and protecting life does not look at Scripture as an authoritative source. So you can't go, well, Genesis 1:26 says that we're created in the image of God. It's not my book. It's not my thing. But they do respect the rights of patients. They respect the rights of patients not born in the United States. And we're teaching them that they need to respect the rights of patients not born in the United States yet. So it's a spiritual battle. We're just trying to provide other tools other than Scripture to not only provide a great argument and apologetics, but to actually win this debate and defend the lives of my patients in the womb.
So you mentioned it sounds like medical journals have come out, research has come out that talks about the validity, the success of having these corrective surgeries or medical professionals intervening in some way with these babies that are still in utero. How have you had conversations with medical students or your medical peers? How do they juxtapose that reality with the whole concept of abortion? Like, what do those conversations look like?
We learned a lot. We were invited to speak in Wichita, Kansas. Wichita, Kansas is the home of George Tiller, the most notorious 3rd trimester abortionist. But we had an invitation to speak at their pregnancy resource center. And a couple weeks before we were scheduled to speak, I received a call from one of the professors at the University of Kansas in Wichita, a professor at the OB-GYN residency program. And she said, "Hey, I've seen a lot of your stuff and I'm really impressed." She said, "Would you be able to come in a day early and participate in a journal club with a lot of our OB residents and a lot of our family practice residents? Because they probably don't know what you are, discussing, and they just haven't reached that level of training." We said, "Sure." Changed our flights, flew in a day early, and we met with 30 or 40 of these physicians that were still in training, OB residents and family practice residents. It just happened every single one of them was female. They were all in their training. And we didn't start off with scripture. We started off with how we are now diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb. And we showed animations and videos and actual videos of the actual procedures of how we are treating and curing babies before they can even get delivered to the NICU. And they hadn't been exposed to that before. And we did Q&A with them afterwards. We got a call from the same professor a couple weeks later saying, "I just got to give you an update." She said almost every one of those ladies that were either a physician in training for obstetrics or family practice was in favor of abortion at any gestational age for any reason. Even though they wouldn't perform them, they would happily refer for them. And she said the topic of conversation at Morning Report every morning for the past 2 weeks, and Morning Report is when you're doing shift change and all the information from the night shift is being transferred to the day shift. The topic of conversation for the past 2 weeks is, hey, do all patients have rights? If we can diagnose, treat, and cure a baby on Tuesday and treat them with respect as a patient, does it make any sense that we could take that same patient and refer them for an abortion on Thursday? She said for the first time, they're actually reconsidering their whole thought process as far as, is an abortion a violation of patients' rights when they are spending their careers and they're going to spend their lives diagnosing and treating babies in the womb? So we had the idea that, you know what, right now, most of our presentations are at churches. They are at Pregnancy Resource Center annual banquets. It's at training groups like Heartbeat and CareNet. Maybe we need to shift from teaching the groups that are 65 years of age and older, which is the average age at a Pregnancy Resource Center. And unless their name is Sarah, they're not going to get pregnant, and maybe shift towards the younger generation. And we see so much hope with the younger generation. We saw the impact that just providing truth, Charlie Kirk was able to provide for them. And it really changed a lot of their hearts and minds. So that is when we decided we were going to step aside from our full-time practice of medicine. We did just what obstetricians do. We gave my partners and the hospital 9 months notice. So everything in our world is about 9-month intervals with pregnancy. So we gave that notice. And then on July 1st of 2025, we shifted into full-time ministry. And now we just launched last week our first event at the University of West Florida of our Abortion is Not Healthcare Worldwide Tour. So when we kicked off that tour, we're going to be back at the Grand Canyon University. That'll be this coming Tuesday, and we'll be speaking to them. But then we're speaking at the University of Georgia, the University of Tennessee, Texas A&M, University of Washington, University of Hawaii, because we want to provide tools for the pro-life students that they can use to articulate not just that they are pro-life, but exactly why they are pro-life. But we also want to bring new information and new facts and new science to the quote-unquote pro-abortion students because they've really been deceived. They've been lied to. So the questions or tools that we give them is, just as an example, question number 1, are you a supporter of patients' rights? Everybody says yes. Follow-up question number 2, are you a supporter of patients' rights if they weren't born in the United States? And now they get really indignant and really defensive. And they go, you better believe I am. Question number 3, then you need to be a supporter and defender of patients' rights if they weren't born in the United States yet. And that 3-letter word is huge because if they are a patient, they are a person and they deserve protection.
So you're speaking at all these university campuses. And what does that process look like? Because from the outside looking in, when I hear about somebody whose organization is pro-life doc, what hurdles do you have to go through to get access to the university, to the students? Is it through the pro-life groups? And what's that process been like, and what's your reception been like?
It's all been by invitation. We're not just showing up at a campus and without permission tabling. We're
Sure.
being invited. So whether it is a Students for Life group, a TPUSA group, when we work with Live Action with Lile Rose, we get invitations. So in fact, we are now on the official speakers list for Live Action, and Live Action will go through a lot of the steps. And what we have found is that when you are invited on campus, campuses have their rules of conduct, that when somebody from an opposing view is coming onto campus, that you cannot interrupt them, you cannot distract them. You really have to treat them with the same respect that you would expect if you were bringing an opposing view. So at the event that we had at the University of West Florida, there was a gubernatorial candidate who was there 2 hours before we started our meeting with the students. And there was somebody who probably could have politely asked his same question from the microphone. It would have been answered, but instead he took a more destructive and distractive, really vocal route, which was not part of the agenda. And he was actually escorted out by the campus security
Mm.
because it violated the code of conduct for the university that everybody signs as a student. And so we came in 2 hours later after somebody had been physically escorted out off the campus, and we gave our presentation. We had three campus security officers that were there, and we had a Q&A period. I spoke for about 45 minutes, but then we had a microphone. Anybody could ask any question. I answered them all to the best of my ability, and it was a cordial, it was a sharing of information. Did everybody agree with me? No, but they all left with new information that they had probably never been exposed to. And that's really our goal,
Sure.
is to provide with scientific truth. That's why we go to college, to
Right.
learn truths and to understand science. And especially when it comes to physicians, to have them rethink their thoughts as far as they started medical school. And the first day, the first thing that they are taught is a Latin phrase called primum non nocere. And that is Latin for first do no harm. And the second thing we're all taught is that all patients have rights. You walk into a hospital, you walk into a doctor's office, and you will look around and you can see framed pictures which will say patient's bill of rights, and that patients will be treated with respect, and they will be, helped, and to the best of our ability, their health care will be provided, and we will meet their physical needs and their emotional needs and their psychological needs. Patients' bills of rights.
Mm.
Well, if we are diagnosing, treating, and curing babies in the womb, they meet the definition of a patient. So if an individual is a patient, by definition, they are a person. And then by definition of the 14th Amendment, all persons, should be treated and protected. And that starts with life. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that's life. And that's right
Mhm.
in our Declaration of Independence. So our founding fathers recognized this value. We are just connecting the value that was ascribed to all people and applying it to patients which are in the womb.
Going back to the university conversations, you're with Live Action, TPUSA. Are there Are there common questions that are asked of you or the other speakers that when you present, is there like a common theme from the students or the people in attendance?
Yeah, the students have really been lied to. And one of the lies is that, well, this is just a blob of tissue and that it's my body, it's my choice. And then we'll discuss the science. When we, receive that question, it's my body, it's my choice. You don't have any rights to tell me what to do with my body. Well, then we'll answer. It's like, you know what? You're right. You have autonomy with your body. If you want to get an I don't like Bill Lile tattoo on your forehead, go get it. If you want to have piercings in your ear that go to your nose and down to your belly button, go ahead. It's your body. But from the moment of conception, science proves to us that that is a whole new body. Half the time it's a different gender. Babies can have different blood types. In fact, baby's blood and mom's blood does not mix. Baby's heart will start beating baby's blood and it goes to the placenta. Everything that the baby needs to get rid of goes from the baby's circulation to the mom's circulation. Everything the baby needs, whether it's oxygen, whether it's carbohydrates, whether it's protein, everything the baby needs come from the mom, but their blood does not mix. That's why sometimes we need to do blood transfusions because moms will have antibodies which see the baby's blood type as foreign. And it's like if somebody were to receive a kidney transplant, but it was the wrong kidney, it was not a match. The body of the recipient is going to have its immune system attack that kidney because it's not of the same type. Well, the mother's body can sometimes do that to the baby as well. So we can either deliver that baby to get that baby out of that environment, but sometimes we have to give that baby a blood transfusion, not just once, but sometimes every 4 or 5 weeks. And that's standard of care.
Mm.
But it's amazing how the science will prove. But that's probably one of the most common questions. It's my body, it's my choice. Well,
So it's not even really a question, it's more just a statement. Right.
correct. And, but from that moment of conception, then you just go through the science, how that one cell that's genetically unique from mom, genetically unique from dad, genetically unique from the other 8 billion people on the planet. One of the areas of study that a lot of kids are excited about is forensic science, where if you have a perpetrator and say you just find one little speck of blood that was not from the victim, well, you can assume that that came from the perpetrator. You can take one white blood cell and you can actually amplify the DNA from that one single cell through a process called polymerase chain reaction. And then you can identify who that person was based on that one cell. So if we can identify a criminal with just one cell, and that is unique and it's more than 99.99% accurate, then when we have a baby in the womb, that is a new person. But then when you go through the science of that one cell going from 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and then it implants in the wall of the uterus, it needs to embed in that wall of the uterus. Well, there are actually cells that will start to release a hormone called HCG, which is a signal to the rest of the body. It says, hey, I'm pregnant. We need to keep the progesterone. Well, these are called syncytial trophoblast. And it not only send that signal to the body, it says, hey, congratulations, we have a visitor. We have a new guest. We need to keep progesterone going to keep this pregnancy supported. But then even when that tiny little grain of sand that maybe has 32 cells starts to embed in the lining of the uterus, how does it embed? Well, those same cells, syncytial trophoblast, actually start to release enzymes that allow that egg, that fertilized zygote that is on the surface of the lining of the uterus, to actually have enzymes that allow it to sink down into that lining of the uterus. Then it starts to develop the placenta, and it just lays out all the things. The science is fascinating, and we could spend an hour just talking about the process of, of not only conception, but the science of how it develops a relationship with the mother. And a lot of people don't understand that. So it's not my body, my
Mm.
choice. This is a totally new body, even at that single cell stage.
So from you mentioned churches, speaking at pregnancy resource centers, speaking at university campuses and everywhere in between. What is your personal sentiment? Are you encouraged by what you're seeing in terms of response to questions? I know those are two diametrically opposed groupings of individuals. On one hand, they're very pro-life, they get it. The other, it seems like it'd be more quote unquote secular science based. But has there been a change in terms of what questions are being asked and the awareness and so to speak?
I see a huge change. My generation kind of got lost. My generation, I mean, abortion was illegal up until I was 8 years old, 1973. And we didn't have the tools and the training and insight to be able to combat engage in that battle. Where I see amazing amounts of hopes is the 25 and under group. We can see they are turning more traditionally conservative, women and men. And so we are providing them tools. They're like, boy, abortion pill is dangerous. It is bad. It is, they're looking at the science. My job is to provide them with the tools where they're not just saying I'm pro-life and somebody else saying I'm pro-abortion. We're actually letting them know and to give them the tools where they can say why they are
Mm.
pro-life. And it makes sense. And it's almost irrefutable as far as the science when it comes to these babies and the development. So whether it's men or it's women, I have amazing hope in those that are 25 years and younger. Plus, they're much more adept with social media. They have more computing power in their iPhones than was in the Saturn V rocket and the space shuttle combined. And they're also adept at communicating with thousands of people. I never heard of a career of an influencer. There was no influencer when I was younger. You didn't go through life and say, what do you want to do for a living? Oh, I like to be an influencer. I was like, what's an influencer? Well, now young kids, college students can be an influencer for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other students. And they are actually to use the tools of modern medicine, modern obstetrics, and really defend the rights and the lives. My job is to provide them with those tools that they might not be aware of. I grew up in New Jersey, right on the Jersey Shore. We had huge garbage scows, which were coming from New York and dumping sinkable trash right there in the Atlantic Ocean. It would go down to the bottom. And if you didn't see it floating on the surface, you didn't even know about it. It wasn't until we had the technology of scuba diving and underwater cameras and underwater video equipment that actually went down. And not only could you see the beauty that was underneath of the sea with all the fish and the life that was there, but you could also see the damage that was happening when that trash was being dumped into the ocean. We're doing the same thing with medical technology. We're showing the amazing development of that life in the womb, and we're showing the brutality and assault that really is occurring, whether it's with a physical abortion with a abortion instrument like a suction machine and tools, or whether it's with the abortion pill. And so when we can use the tools of modern science and medicine and show this is what's really going on, it really changes hearts and minds. So I see a definite swing in the younger generation towards life, really abandoning the people who are 20 and 30 years older than them, who were able to get away with it's my body, my choice, because they would show them the products of an abortion and say, that's not a baby, that's just a bunch of tissue. Well, if I show somebody ground beef in the grocery store, it doesn't look like a cow, but it was a cow at one point. So we want to provide them with tools, and I have a lot of hope in the younger generation, and that is going to be the younger voters as well, and they will be the generation that will make abortion not only illegal throughout the United States, but make it be an issue where somebody don't even think about it as being an option, because they will have respect and knowledge of the beauty that is inside of the womb.
So we've seen here in Arizona, we've seen very similar shift happening with what we've classified as Gen Z. And there seems to be this awakening. There seems to be this realization that this bill of goods they've been sold about life, abortion is garbage, and they have this insatiable desire for truth. And so we've seen kind of the same thing happening here, obviously, kind of in these microcosms that we go to speak at, and even with our client base that comes into our centers. The conversations are totally different. To your point, like there's this desire to learn more, and this understanding of I don't think that's accurate what I've been told. It just doesn't gel with what I'm seeing in reality. You've mentioned several times the abortion pill.
Yeah.
And I know you
Mhm.
covered this in the last interview, but it's vitally important. This is the paradigm shift in the abortion industry. Um, Give us a high level for people listening and who have no idea what the abortion pill is. What is it, and why is it so dangerous?
Sure. Well, let's talk about the abortion pill difference between the abortion pill and the morning after pill. They're both evil. The morning after pill is indicated for 72 hours after a woman has had intercourse, and it will force her to have a menstrual cycle. So if a pregnancy had occurred, it would be flushed out with her menstrual flow. The abortion pill is very different. It is indicated for up to 70 days, not 3 days, but up to 70 days. So not 72 hours, but 70 days. And there's even, groups which are distributing the abortion pill to women who are much further along than that. Well, the abortion pill is now approximately 70% of all the abortions here in the United States. It was created by a Frenchman named Etienne-Emile Ballou, and to this day, worldwide, the abortion pill is responsible for 1 billion with a B deaths of babies in the womb. So that is, we have 8 billion people here that are living on the planet, and the abortion pill is now responsible for 1 billion of those deaths worldwide. And it will kill a baby that up to 10 weeks, and we have seen even protocols online up to 24 weeks gestation. And they will actually recommend in journals that if you're going to use it up to 24 weeks, you need to first invoke what's called fetal asystole. Well, what's fetal asystole? Where you actually will stop the baby's heart before you start this process, where you actually will use an ultrasound to guide a needle through the skin of the mom, through the wall of the uterus, go right up to the baby's heart and inject that baby with either potassium chloride or a heart medication called digoxin to stop the baby's heart. And they say, well, why? And they say, well, for doctor and patient comfort, because it's not comfortable to deliver a baby that still is moving around in an abortion
Can I
process.
stop you real quick? Is that
Sure.
is that a recently new protocol, the 24-week
Oh,
protocol, or has this been around?
it's been around. In fact, I found 28 articles just last year on using the abortion pill up to 24 weeks gestation.
Okay.
So here in the United States, it's approved for up to 10 weeks. It's routinely used for up to 12 weeks. There actually is a fellowship now. It's a fellowship What is a fellowship? Well, to do what I do, obstetrics and gynecology, and I'm board certified, delivered 5,000 babies, licensed in multiple states. But to become an OB-GYN, it's 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, and then 4 years of residency training. And if you haven't had enough school, you can do a fellowship. Maybe it's GYN oncology, infertility, high risk obstetrics, urogynecology. And then years ago, they developed a fifth fellowship, and that's called complex family planning, where after 12 years of training, you do 2 more years in complex family planning, which really comes down to two primary skills which are taught: how to perform a late term abortion and how to perform what's called a selective reduction, where, say, a mom has IVF and she has quadruplets, and I've delivered healthy quadruplets. In fact, my quadruplets just graduated from the University of West Florida last year. My triplets have now graduated, and they're doing great. But when it comes to a pregnancy that has quadruplets, there's always a risk and a concern for preterm labor. Well, somebody can do what's called a selective reduction, where they will look at all 3 or 4 babies on the ultrasound, and then they'll say, well, you know what, we're going to go ahead and inject baby A or baby D with potassium chloride. We're going to reduce it from 4 heartbeats down to 2 heartbeats to try to prevent preterm labor. But these are the primary skills that they're taught when it comes to complex family planning. It's Joseph Mengele. It is eugenics. It is the taking of life. I mean, you spend 12 years, you want to have two goals. I want to have a healthy mom and I want to have healthy babies. And if I have a pregnant mom, I have 2 patients. If she's got twins, I've got 3 patients. And if she has triplets, quadruplets, I've got 5 patients that I'm seeing every week. But when it comes to the science and letting people understand that science, we will actually take them inside the womb. We'll take a camera. We'll put a camera inside the womb called a fetoscope. In fact, there's no denying we want the babies to be able to defend themselves. That's the amazing tool of ultrasound. Ultrasound right here at Choices shows not just a positive pregnancy test, 2 lines versus 1 line. It shows you that baby. And it not just shows you the baby, it shows you that baby's personality on the inside. Well, yes, we can use ultrasound. Yes, we use MRI, which is safe because there's no radiation. But we also are now putting scopes inside the womb, not just to get cool video and pictures, but because we are actually diagnosing, treating, and curing the babies in the womb. One example of how we use that tool is when it comes to something called twin transfusion syndrome, where we have a mom who has twins. And they can even be identical twins. But you'll look at one twin, it's at the 99th percentile. One twin, it might be at the first or second percentile. Well, the problem is they're sharing one placenta. Movie in the 90s called Twins with Schwarzenegger DeVito. It made no sense. It really could have been twin transfusion syndrome. So if the little baby dies, since they're sharing one placenta, then the big baby's going to die shortly thereafter. So we routinely, when we see this, we call our social worker. She'll set up airfare and transportation. She'll arrange for the mom and the babies to fly down to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. The team will evaluate the mom and the babies. They'll actually go inside of the womb with a fetoscope, just like a scope that we use to take out your gallbladder. Go into the womb with the fetoscope, map out the blood vessels of the placenta that they're sharing, and literally take a laser and go bzz, 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 and divide that placenta in two. They say, okay, this is your side of the placenta. This is your side of the placenta. Knock it off, play nice. They watch them for 10 days. They send them back to us in Pensacola. We follow them for the rest of the pregnancy. They might have been at the 99th percentile and first percentile when we sent them down, but by the time we deliver them, they might be 60-40, 70-30. So we are literally teaching identical twins how to share on the inside of the womb. That is healthcare. Abortion is not healthcare. Right. But when it comes to the abortion pill, the abortion pill is now the majority of abortions. How does it work and what's the function? The abortion pill blocks a very important hormone called progesterone. We were speaking just a little bit about syncytial trophoblast. These are the cells that announce to the woman's body, congratulations, we are pregnant. We've had this embryo attached to the lining of the uterus. We're going to have a baby. And there's lots of changes that come along with that. Progesterone is the conductor or the coach of pregnancy. And you look at that big word, progesterone. Progesterone is the progestational steroid hormone. It's the hormone that will let the whole body know we're not going to have a menstrual cycle. We're going to, relax the uterus. We're going to provide more blood supply to the lining of the uterus. Mom, we're going to get you ready for breastfeeding. We're going to, increase your appetite so we have more nutrition coming in. Everything that's good about a pregnancy is because of progesterone. Well, the abortion pill will block that hormone progesterone. So the woman's body celebrates it, goes, hey, congratulations, I've got a positive pregnancy test. Then a woman is either forced to take the abortion pill, or maybe she's confused and she thinks it's her only option. She takes the abortion pill and it blocks that signal. It says, congratulations, you're pregnant. So the body says, I thought I was pregnant, but maybe I'm not pregnant. Then 12 to 24 hours later, a woman is instructed to take a contraction medication. And this contraction medication is a medication that we use frequently in obstetrics with healthy pregnancies, where we will actually provide it to begin the labor process for a woman. So at our hospital, it was protocol that if you had a patient who was, going to be induced for whatever reason, whether 40 weeks or 41 weeks, we would provide the mom with 25 micrograms of this hormone called Cytotec, the contraction medication. And we were very successful in delivering the baby. Well, with the abortion pill protocol, the first pill is the abortion pill. It blocks progesterone. But then 12 to 24 hours later, you're told to take the contraction medication, which is called misoprostol. Misoprostol will cause contractions. Well, when I'm inducing a woman who has an 8-pound baby at term, we use 25 micrograms. When it comes to the abortion, a woman is given 800 micrograms. So the bleeding, cramping, and pain is pronounced. And we see and we celebrate that so many Planned Parenthood facilities are closing. And yes, we say, hallelujah, it's a good thing. But the numbers of abortions are going up. The number of abortions have gone from maybe 900,000 with the Dobbs decision when we, reversed Roe versus Wade. Now it's up to at least 1.1 million, and it could be higher because we don't have documentation of who is getting the abortion pill. So when a woman has taken the abortion pill, she's taken that contraction medication, it will cause the loss of that pregnancy and that baby 98% of the time. But have you ever said something that you regret? I have. Have I ever done something that I regret? Absolutely. Well, just like when a person takes too much of a narcotic and they come into the emergency room and they say you have overdosed on fentanyl, we have an antidote. We can give them Narcan. We not only have Narcan that is available in ERs, Narcan is available through Amazon. You don't need a prescription. Narcan is in our schools. Narcan is in our churches. We use Narcan to save lives. Well, is there an antidote when a woman has taken the abortion pill? Yes. The abortion pill blocks the hormone progesterone. We just give these women more progesterone. We override the system that is being blocked, and we give that signal so the woman's body says, yay, we're pregnant. I guess we're not pregnant. Then we give them progesterone. It goes, yay, we're pregnant again. And we save the lives of these babies. Just last week, we documented successful abortion pill reversal number 8,000. I've attempted abortion pill reversal 28 times with my patients, and we've been successful 21 of those times by providing them with progesterone, the exact same progesterone the woman's body was already making. It is bioidentical to the exact molecule. It is the same. Micronized progesterone, brand name Prometrium, is used in normal obstetrics all the time. We use it if somebody has triplets or quadruplets. Standard of care is we can provide progesterone to keep the pregnancy going and to prevent preterm labor. Somebody had a pregnancy, had a miscarriage, had a pregnancy, had a miscarriage. A lot of times they have what's called a luteal phase defect, which means the woman's body did not have enough progesterone. So what do? We give her progesterone to keep the pregnancy going. When it comes to IVF, and that's a whole nother topic, but say you transfer 2 embryos inside of the woman's body. The woman's body was like, who are these? I didn't expect company. I didn't expect guests. I have no idea who these people are. Well, we give these women progesterone to keep the pregnancy going because her body was not expecting these. So we can actually reverse the effect of the abortion pill. And this is a green light, red light. There is no, well, we have a heartbeat, but the baby doesn't have arms or legs. No, not at all. We see absolutely no evidence of that at all in any of the literature. What we do see is that we can save the life of a baby about 62% of the time. which there is a biblical message there and there's a spiritual message. And when we're in a church environment, we'll tell this story where that baby, after the mom took the abortion pill, that baby is on a path where 98% of the time that baby is going to die. Mom has a change of heart, a change in mind. She looks for help. And pregnancy centers and doctors, we have trained over 1,000 doctors in the protocol. They can look for help, even calling a toll-free abortion pill reversal hotline, and we provide that medication, and we save that baby's life. Well, my wife and I and a lot of pregnancy centers will actually pay for that medication because the poor girl maybe has spent $300, $400. She might be tapped out, and she spent all of her money for the abortion pill. She might not have the extra $100 for the antidote medication. So my wife and I and a lot of pregnancy centers will provide that $100, and we will pay for that medication where we're literally buying back the life of that baby. Well, how is that a spiritual message? How can a pastor use that message? Because 100% of all of us, you, me, we're on an eternal path where we're going to be separated from God for all eternity. But then we have a change of heart, change of mind. We look for help. We look for to be redeemed, to be bought back. Well, we look to Jesus, we look to the gospel, and we are bought back by accepting the gospel message, not by $100 of progesterone. We're bought back with the blood of Jesus Christ. So when it comes to the gospel message, we're getting ready to celebrate Resurrection Sunday now, where we see, out of amazing love for everybody, God realized that we had all failed. We had made a wrong choice, but then we were destined for hell for our choices and our decisions. But then God provided that rescue for us. He provided Jesus. So Jesus came to earth not for just a few people, but for all people, me, you, everybody out in the audience. He lived a perfect life. He gave his life, and then he was dead, buried in the grave for 3 days, but then he conquered death. He rose again, sits at the right hand of the Father, and we just have to accept that gift of rescue. That's what it means to be redeemed, to be bought back. So we can redeem, buy back the lives of these babies in the womb, but we can also all be redeemed through the message of the gospel. And we have done that now 8,000 times with babies with abortion pill reversal, and it's an amazing ministry. I've delivered these babies. I get updates on these kids. They send me pictures all the time. And when you have a mom who has made that decision, and then you don't just say, well, we're going to reverse it. It's great to see that a heartbeat is there 2 weeks later. But then when you deliver that baby and you realize as you're holding that baby, it's dressed up in a very cute outfit and the mom is ecstatic, you can't help but go back, where were we 8 months ago?
Yeah.
Where he actually tried to take the life of that baby. But the first abortion pill reversal that I was involved in is now in 5th grade. We get an update every year. The baby's name is Journey because the baby had an amazing journey.
Yeah.
And the baby is perfect, and it's just reassuring to see that kind of continuation of life where we can, with prayer and modern science, can save the life of those babies. And when it comes to abortion, with the abortion pill especially, so many women in our churches and men are hurting. When you look at the data in science, a couple of years ago, Lifeway and CareNet did a study nationwide. And for people who attend church at least once a month, they interviewed them and polled them. And they found that between 18 and 24% of those men and women who are going to church on a regular basis had personally been involved with an abortion. They are hurting. They need healing. They know that loss that they experienced, and they need healing, but healing comes from forgiveness, and true forgiveness only comes through the blood of Jesus Christ. So this is not a problem outside of the church. This is a problem within our churches as well. So that message needs to be coming from our pastors that this is an attack on the image of God in the womb, and people are hurting, but they can have that healing through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And when we look at our churches and we see that pain, this is something that can go back decades before. But now with the abortion pill, typically these women are making these decisions, and they're doing this and going through this process alone. They're having incredible pain. They're having incredible bleeding. They are passing a baby that they can identify. This baby in the commode has fingers. I can see them. It has toes. I can see them. I can see the eyes on this baby that was my child on the inside of the womb. It's incredibly traumatic. So we are now counseling our Christian counselors to help these women through this, help these men through this process, because they didn't have friends that were typically there. Their parents might not even know. Grandparents are losing babies in their daughter's bathroom because they have gotten access to the abortion pill. And you say, well, we live in a pro-life state. The abortion pill is coming into pro-life states as well. It is coming into minors. If your minor has access to a credit card, they can get the abortion pill. And there are a lot of groups out there will say, you know what, if you're tapped for money, we're so, focused on providing you with an abortion and killing your baby that we're going to ship it to you, free of charge. So it is a problem. It is a mental health issue, but this is an attack on the image of God. And we need to encourage and equip our pastors to engage in probably was the greatest spiritual battle of our lives. I mean, we went to war over the fact that there were some groups who saw that some individuals didn't have rights. They weren't fully human. It was called the Civil War regarding slavery. And God loved all people, including African American, Chinese, Asians, people from Mexico. He loved them all that he sent his son for everybody. Well, we went to war over the Civil War, where some states were, say, pro-abortion or were pro-slavery, and some were, not. And we're now in the same things. We now call ourselves blue states and red states, and we've already divided whether you're a pro-abortion state or a pro-life state. I don't want to go to war and lose another million people over this. I think the science is clear that, and absolutely 100% clear, that that person in the womb is a patient, genetically unique. They deserve protection. We just need to educate the public and especially our younger generation, our students, of the value of this patient, and to really treat them with respect. We keep hearing groups like even Elon Musk saying, we've got to get our birth rate up. And we look at countries like South Korea and Japan, where they're only having maybe 1.6, 1.7 children for every married couple. That's not sustainable. Japan is already working on robotics to cure for the elderly. What is Canada doing to look at this problem where we're not going to have enough people? They now have medical assistance in dying, where we are killing adults, and now they're trying to provide this for minors as well. And they're trying to even include depression and mental health. Medical assistance in dying in Canada, doctor-assisted suicide, is now the fourth leading cause of death in all of Canada. So we need to respect life. Life is treasure. Life is a gift, whether it's from that moment of conception or the time of natural death. We're just trying to provide the science to stand up for God's preborn in the womb, and to provide the younger generation and the older generation with tools that they can not only have effective discussions, but really win that battle.
So that concludes my first interview with Dr. Bill Lile. Stay tuned for part two.